19-year-old rodeo star Aaron Brisbane turns heads wherever he goes. He may look like a duck out of water, but Aaron actually grew up near the beach at Blacksmith, south of Newcastle. However, his greatest skills are in the ring. In 1990, he won the National Rookie Calf Roper, and a year later, the Rookie Bull Rider. Last April, Aaron went to America to try for a rodeo scholarship. He signed with Fort Scott College at Kansas, 1,800 students with a team of 80 riders.
They have scholarships for any sort of sports people over there, and like us, after we get out of school, about midday most days, we'll go and practice rodeo. Like, we can do whatever we want. We have our own bulls, horses, and all our stock to use.
All Aaron's tuition fees in a veterinary course are covered. All he has to do is ride. The cowboy isn't worried about leaving the Aussie beaches for college, as all his work is leading to a crack at the lucrative US pro circuit.
Well, Ty Murray this year, he's won his, I think it's 4th consecutive all-round title, and he's only about 23 years of age, and I think he won something like $275,000 in a season.
Aaron flies back out on Sunday. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Norm Jones's quiet convalescence in his Ties Hill home is a far cry from a week ago when he was struck down with gallstone trouble.
I was writhing in pain. I've never felt such an excruciating pain in my life.
When he sought admission to the Mater Hospital, Mr Jones was shocked by the reply.
There were no beds available at the Mater. There were no beds available in the public hospital system in Newcastle. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to get into a private hospital at Warners Bay, where I was operated on 2 days later.
Hospital management says beds were available. Mr Jones's surgeon decided to go elsewhere. But the Hunter Medical Association says operations have been postponed at the Mater because 2 surgical wards have been closed during the Christmas break.
It's nothing but an attempt to save money. It's got nothing to do with patient care, and it's got nothing to do with patient services. It's a ruddy disgrace.
Over the Christmas New Year period, demand does tend to fall for book surgery.
The association believes the area's health service is also being put under pressure by patients being brought from outside the region. Dr Howe believes that's drawing more than $14 million from the Hunter's health budget.
We don't want to lose those patients because we believe that it's important that the best service is provided. However, we certainly need help with the finances of them.
The area over the last 3 financial years has received an additional $18 million to increase its budget base to meet that load.
Dr Smythe says increasingly more patients will be referred to the Hunter, and he's seeking extra government funding to cope with the demand. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
$150 years not out is something to celebrate, and the staff at the Maitland Mercury were making sure everyone knew of their accomplishment. And what better way to do it than making it front page news in today's edition. From a one-man newspaper in 1843, the Mercury now employs more than 100 people and is the regional publishing centre for papers in Cessnock, Singleton, Scone, Gloucester and Dungog. It's an important part of the community of Maitland, and this is detailed in a special exhibition opening tonight at Brough House. Titled The Way We Lived, it features a front page of each of the last 150 years. Over that time, the Mercury has missed only a few editions when floodwaters invaded the city. Amongst those pages on display, this one from 1955.
This front page is the front page from Sunday, March the 6th, 1955. It was straight after the floods hit. A group of journalists took it on themselves to come into the paper, and under extreme difficulties they put this edition out. It was a single page edition. They distributed it free to the people just as a way, I think, of inspiring the community and showing them that there was something to fight for.
The Mercury now has a readership of around 10,000 people. Andrew Minahan believes the paper has survived over the years because of its emphasis on local news.
We've tried to develop a close relationship with the people of Maitland. We try to become part of their lives. We try to become a paper they have to get through each day.
Jodie McKay, NBN News. The Greater Newcastle Permanent Building Society had only been opened an hour when the bandit struck. Police interviewed staff and witnesses. The security video is also being studied. According to police, the man threatened staff with either a shortened shotgun or a .22 calibre rifle. Once he was handed an unknown amount of money, he fled into nearby Russell Road. Witnesses reported seeing him get into a navy blue Holden Commodore. Once that information was circulated, police received a report of the car speeding along Eves Court Road. Around 15 minutes later, the car was found abandoned in a car park near Lexington Avenue at Garden City Shopping Centre. Those in the area were interviewed by police, but there was no sign of the man. It's believed the car was stolen from Waratah West overnight. The driver's side door and window were dusted for fingerprints.
We're looking for anybody that may have seen a man leave a motor vehicle very quickly and perhaps drive away from the car park at probably a fast rate of speed. And anyone that saw anyone acting suspiciously shortly after, say, 10 a.m. this morning, we'd love to hear from them.
The man is described as in his mid-20s, 183 centimetres tall, of solid build. It's thought he was wearing a dark brown curly wig, but underneath his hair is fair. He used a dark-coloured handkerchief to cover his face in the bank, and he was wearing a dark short-sleeved shirt with dark trousers. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
It was overcast for the doubles final. Chris Lewis and Johan Anderson up against Tony Roach and Ashley Norman. Anderson paid the price for his early aggression. But the youngster quickly adjusted his game. Roach and Norman led 5-3, but there must have been bad luck in the Norman dance. Lewis and Anderson rallied, the net helping the pair to the first. Lewis started the second convincingly and provided the touch to go with the power. Down 5-6, Roach had a chance to salvage the match, but a tricky lob paid dividends for Lewis and Anderson. The sun was shining for the singles final between Norman and Anderson, and Norman quickly took the upper hand. After dropping his second serve, Anderson turned on the power. But Norman was all class. Norman took the first 6-2 and again broke Anderson's second serve. From there, it was all frustration for Anderson, as Norman powered his way to victory. The Malaysian soccer team may have arrived quietly in Newcastle, but they were making plenty of noise at training at Mitre 10 Stadium. The team is on a 3-match tour of northern New South Wales, with 2 of those games being played in Newcastle. The first is tonight against a northern New South Wales Coalfield select squad, and there's a touch of irony involved in the game. It'll be played at Western Park, the former home ground of Malaysian team coach Roy Johnson, and Johnson was in fine voice as he prepared the tourists. After beating the Socceroos 1-0, the Malaysian team went on to win the Independence Cup, making them a highly respected team in Asia. On Wednesday night, they'll play the Breakers at Mitre 10 Stadium. Matthew White, NBN News.
For those unable to wait for the postie to arrive, local post offices provided an early morning meeting place for groups of anxious students. Although offices were still closed, staff issued the envelopes that the region's 4,664 Year 12 students were awaiting. For some, the results meant disappointment.
There's going to be hell to pay.
For others, like 17-year-old Alan Ford, now planning a career in electrical and computing engineering, his mark of 99.95 puts him in the state's top 0.05% of students. The results were a fitting reward for countless hours of study and a little bit of help.
Seriously, you've got to have a lot of encouragement and motivation, and I found encouragement from my family, my friends, my teachers and my church.
Alan joins 3 other Year 12 students to receive the Hunter's top mark. This year, HSC advisory centres have been set up at local CES offices, providing a post-HSC counselling and information service. The centres are open this week to school leavers and their parents. Careers advisor John Cooper says most of his inquiries have been over the phone. The major concern is disappointment about the results.
Some of them have been a little unrealistic in their outlook, and when they receive their marks it comes as a shock. And the problem is what to do with what you've obtained.
Melinda Smith, NBN News. For Percy Jack, December the 25th held little festive joy. In the early hours of Christmas morning, 2 men knocked on the door of his bushland shanty near Head and Greeter. They demanded the keys to his 2 motorbikes, the 71-year-old's only form of transport. When he refused, the intruders attacked the pensioner with a baseball bat, stole his life savings and set fire to his shack. Despite efforts by police, the culprits are yet to be found. But at least for Percy, someone's provided a silver lining to his grey ordeal. After hearing about his plight, Graham Boyd from Sport Cycles offered his professional services to overhaul the Yamaha damaged in the fire. New tyres, headlight, front guard and a full tune and service has set Percy Jack back on the road.
I like old bikers, you know. This is how we make our living, you know, selling bikes to motorcyclists in general, and you know, the older the better.
Well, I think everyone that's been associated with it.
And you having your bike back, what will that mean for you now?
Oh, well, I've got another one. I can move around.
It may not be a new bike, but for Percy, he's happy to stay with his old faithful. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
It's Malaysia's first tour of Australia, and the opening game against the Newcastle Coalfields Invitational side at Western wasn't the best of starts. The Malaysians in the yellow strip tried some entertaining football, but it was obvious the coordination wasn't always there. Newcastle, however, had a go, peppering the Malaysian goal with shots. Both teams squandered scoring chances, but the only goal in the game came in the 72nd minute. Newcastle's substitute striker Mike Trebilco leaving the Malaysian keeper Azman stranded. It was a tremendous win for the locals. The Malaysians have defeated the Socceroos in the past. The Solo riders must be keen to get into the championship. Their charge has been delayed twice by the weather. 16 of the state's top riders will compete, a ton of talent with names like Craig Boyce, Stephen Davies and Chris Watson. And defending champion Mick Poole won't be surrendering his title too easily. The championship is also the first leg of the World Speedway Crown. Suffice to say, the pace will be hectic.
Six months into its trial of dumping sewage sludge into old mines under its Burwood Beach plant, Hunter Water has had to halt the project due to a new controversy on the surface. Methane gas has been working its way through the rock strata and appearing as bubbles on this rock platform. With the trial on hold and primary treated sewage being pumped into the ocean, the Environment Protection Authority wants to know what the corporation has in mind should the mines project be abandoned.
We're simply signalling to the corporation that we believe it is important now for those plans to be pulled out and reviewed and make sure that they're ready to roll if they have to be put in place.
Before deciding on the future of the mines trial, Hunter Water is drilling 2 more holes to monitor the gas. But the corporation says alternatives are already being reviewed.
Dewatering to reduce the volume and construction of digestion facilities. What that does, following an investment of quite a substantial sum of money, is change the biological and physical characteristics of the sludge and permit disposal off-site.
While the long-term plans are being reviewed, Hunter Water is considering as a short-term option bringing the secondary treatment plant back online and pumping both the treated effluent and the sludge out to sea.
The precise aesthetic and other consequences of having sludge out through the outfall are not definitely known at this stage. However, we're very confident they will be minor.
The EPA believes on environmental grounds this option may be preferable to pumping primary treated sewage into the ocean. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
The two women were travelling north on the Pacific Highway near Viney Creek Road when the 77-year-old driver veered onto the gravel shoulder and down a 20-metre embankment. Both were trapped for around an hour before being freed by a rescue crew. A busload of off-duty ambulance officers was returning to Newcastle and assisted at the accident. The highway was closed for about 40 minutes while the patients were transported to the rescue helicopter. They were taken to the John Hunter Hospital suffering head, chest and internal injuries. Tonight, both are in a serious condition. And 4 young people were taken to hospital after this accident at Mount Sugarloaf. The car they were in was being driven by a provisional licence holder. It overturned on the gravel road. No one was seriously injured.
It took just 6 minutes for the breakers to pounce. Rod Brown was brought down inside the box and Brad Maloney made no mistake from the penalty. In the 11th minute, Brown was unlucky not to score his own. As the breakers dominated early play, keeper Mike Gibson was only rarely called upon. At the other end, the Malaysian keeper was in the action and in the wars. But Malaysia fought back, this chance giving their fans something to cheer about. Ahead 1-0 at the break, Newcastle coach Bruce Stowell made some changes, youngsters Shane Price, Scott Thomas and John Russell coming on. But it was Malaysia who pressured early, a tricky bounce just fooling Han Govan. In the 64th minute, Warren Spink gave Rod Brown the pass he was looking for. Down 2-0, the visitors refused to give in, Jayakanthan finding the net. But the Malaysians were clearly outplayed. Mark Wilson's goal wrapping up a 3-1 win for the Breakers.
Commercial activity in the Hunter region is higher than the rest of the state, and researchers believe that the area's 220,000 strong workforce may soon increase.
We've been seeing an increase in output in the manufacturing sector, steel output, aluminium, electricity, and also coal production are all increasing, and I think this is a good sign. Also, residential building activity in the region is quite buoyant. The activity is greater in the region than in the state.
Ms McDonald says this strong activity is creating more employment opportunities and believes those jobs are appearing now.
Well, I think it means that there are going to be more jobs available. They'll either be advertised or they'll be available from the employment site. We're not seeing a large increase in employment advertisements, but I do think that employees are able to directly solicit prospective employers and obtain jobs that way. Also, the CES is reporting an increase in vacancy notifications, so there have been a lot of referrals from the CES.
And researchers don't appear to be the only economic optimists.
Responses to our survey indicate that people are making plans for new purchases of household items, appliances, motor vehicles, even a new home. And I think that's a good sign for economic activity in the region.
Holiday time at the entrance and Tuggerah Lakes and thousands flock to the waterways. But it's a seasonal boom. In the cooler months, the lakes are quieter and unlike other areas have fewer moored boats. The Maritime Services Board Waterways Authority is reviewing the role of boating inspectors on the lakes and may cut patrols from April through to spring.
We can only see the reason behind it is the typical bean counter in Sydney who doesn't really have a feel for the local area. We've got some 100 kilometres of water behind us here and it's not going to be patrolled for half the year.
The Tuggerah Lakes Residents and Ratepayers Group is incensed by the prospect. They claim any reduction in vigilance on the increasingly busy waterways would be asking for trouble.
Really, I think the signal's being sent clearly to the community of, whoever, the yobbos, whatever you want to call them. If you get booked on Brisbane Water or Lake Macquarie, come on down to Tuggerah Lakes. It's open season. Bring your jet skis and whatever else you want to use. And if residents wish to complain, well, don't bother calling because no one's going to be there to come.
Half a world away from the airstrikes in Iraq, the HMAS Westralia sits high and dry in a Newcastle dock. But for the Navy tanker's captain, Commander Bill Garner, this latest flare-up in the Gulf is all too familiar. Both he and the Westralia saw action there during the major conflict 2 years ago.
Our major concern was mines. There was a very large number of mines, and they were reported in areas that were drifting down towards the location of the Allied units, and so we had to take special precautions against that.
Commander Garner believes with the Iraqi leader's provocative movement of weapons and recent raids into Kuwait, Allied action was inevitable.
But from a personal point of view, it looks to me as though it's just been a continuing series of niggles from Saddam Hussein, and finally something has had to be done.
The captain is in two minds about where he'd prefer to be right now, in the Gulf or in the dock.
There was a lot of professional satisfaction with being involved the first time, but I'm quite happy being here this time.
While Saddam Hussein has proclaimed this as the start of another holy war, a spokesman for Australia's Department of Defence says our personnel are unlikely to become involved this time unless there's an escalation in the conflict and the UN calls for international support. Scott Bevan, NBN News. For 10 years, the vital link between the Hunter's coal-rich earth and the ships of the world waiting to load in Newcastle Harbour has been the 81 class locomotive.
These locos have been the backbone of the export coal business.
More than 200 million tonnes of coal have been hauled by the 84 diesel locos of this type used in New South Wales. And for each of these locomotives, all that haulage adds up to a lot of kilometres.
Well over 1 million kilometres. This loco here had done well over 1 million kilometres in the last 10 years.
With a decade under their wheels, the 81 class locos are each receiving a $250,000 overhaul. But with this 10th birthday present, the end of the line is in sight for some of the machines. Once they're back on the rails, not all of them will be running the Hunter's coal lines, for the future belongs to a new, more powerful locomotive, the 93 class.
This class of locomotive in the Hunter Valley we're going to take out of the coal business because we're buying new, more powerful versions of this locomotive, and they'll spend their days, the last 10 years of their life, in a rather more gentle existence.
Yet even when these locos have trundled into history, their contribution to freight rail seems assured. Bruce, if the 81 class loco were a person, what qualities would you describe it as having?
Well, I'd say hard-working and industrious. Perhaps I should say that if it was in a football team, what you're looking at here is the front row.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
A teenage boy fishing from his father's trawler made the gruesome discovery around 7 o'clock yesterday morning. A man's body floating face down under the pier at number 3 Lee Wharf. Police say they believe he drowned only hours before.
The gentleman's about in his 60s, real thick set, big build, 120 kilos he weighed. He must be a local chap to ride around the area.
This push bike and helmet was discovered close by. A set of keys found on the body fits the lock. Police are hoping someone will recognise the model.
We just assume that somebody must know him, or they do know him, and that he is a friend or a relative or a chap that lives by himself that hasn't been seen for a couple of days.
Police say there are no suspicious circumstances. It's believed the man may have suffered a heart attack or drowned while fishing.
It was a perfect day to be on the water with a good northeasterly blowing. More than 60 craft took part in the sailing marathon. The event was open to anyone who relied on sail power, from sailboards to trailer sailors. The craft left from Manning Point and sailed up the Manning River to Taree. A catamaran called Erky Perky won the race. A 14-foot skiff sailed cheap came in second, and Jindalee, a 16-foot Belmont skiff, was third.
Day 3 of the championships, more perfect weather and a good crowd to witness some great individual performances. Young BHP swimmer Renee Connolly was going for her third gold of the tournament in the open women's 100 metres backstroke. Connolly led from the start to win in a time of 1 minute 6.15. The 200 metres men's freestyle was a hard-fought race. Only a fingernail separated the top three, Illawarra's James McBride winning from BHP's Joseph Mitchell and Sean Davies third. For the Hunter Club, it was a massive overall victory and one that flattered coach Sherrick Arnold.
We knew that we were going to go well, but it's a record. It's a record point score, and by the time it finishes, it'll be one that I doubt will ever be achieved again.
Paul Harrigan's rise to prominence in the rugby league world has been meteoric to say the least. The Chief played a major part in Country Origin's first win over City in 17 years, was the player of the series in the State of Origin war against Queensland, which New South Wales won, was selected and played in the 3 test matches for Australia against Great Britain, and was chosen in the World Cup squad to England. Armidale Sean Crichton was the shock omission from the Olympic team to Barcelona. Crichton won all 5 steeplechases on the Australian circuit, including the National Championship. He won the World Student Cross Country event. He was third in the World Cup steeplechase in Cuba, beating 2 Olympic finalists, as well as a host of other sound performances, and was a member of the winning road marathon relay team. Rachel McQuillan again excelled, making the final of the Australian Hardcore Tennis Championships, losing to fellow Aussie Nicole Provis. Then she teamed with Nicole to win a bronze medal at the Barcelona Olympic Games in the doubles. Tomorrow night we look at another 3 finalists in this year's NBN St George Sports Star of the Year award, leading up to Friday night's live telecast and the announcement of this year's winner.
No, it's not the return of the Pink Panther, but 2 pink condoms delivering the safe sex message to the beaches. Stickers, pamphlets and condoms are being handed out, as well as some good advice on playing it safe in bed, and it appears the message is getting through. But while many people are aware of safe sex, according to coordinator Marilyn Bliss, many young people still aren't taking notice.
I think it's one of confidence and being able to negotiate, and sometimes that's very difficult when you're only
16 or 17 to negotiate, especially with a new partner, about safe sex.
One initiative to improve that is the Youth Info Card, which contains a condom and telephone numbers to assist those young people with questions. The Safe Sex van will continue its journey through the summer.
The van has been down in the Gosford area yesterday, and on Saturday it's going up to Hawk's Nest Tea Gardens and then further up the coast.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.